Book 3, Chapter 9 of the Lancashire Witches. This recording is in the public domain. Reading by Andy Minter. The Lancashire Witches, a Romance of Pendle Forest, by William Harrison Ainsworth. Book 3, Houghton Tower. Chapter 9. The Banquet. On the King's return to Houghton Tower, orders were given by Sir Richard for the immediate service of the banquet, it being the hospitable baronet's desire that festivities should succeed each other so rapidly as to allow of no tedium. The coup d'oeil of the banquet hall on the monarch's entrance was magnificent, panelled with black lustrous oak, and lighted by mullioned windows filled with stained glass, and emblazoned with the armorial bearings of the family. The vast and lofty hall was hung with banners, and decorated with panoplies and trophies of the chase. 3 long tables ran down it, each containing 100 covers. At the lower end were stationed the heralds, the pursuivants, and a band of yeomen of the guard, with the royal badge, a demi-rose, crowned, impaled with a demi-thistle, woven in gold, on their doublets, and having fringed pole-axes over their shoulders. Behind them was a richly carved oak screen, concealing the passages leading to the buttery and kitchens, in which the clerk of the kitchen, the pantlers, and the yeomen of the cellar and ewery were hurrying to and fro. Above the screen was a gallery, occupied by the trumpeters and minstrels, and over all was a noble rafter roof. The tables were profusely spread, and glittered with silver dishes of extraordinary size and splendour, as well as with flagons and goblets of the same material and rare design. The guests, all of whom were assembled, were outnumbered by the prodigious array of serving men, pages, and yeomen waiters, in the yellow and red liveries of the Stuart. Flourishes of trumpets announced the coming of the monarch, who was preceded by Sir Richard Houghton, bearing a white wand, and ushered with much ceremony to his place. At the upper end of the hall was a raised floor, and on either side of it an oriel window, glowing with painted glass. On this dais the king's table was placed, underneath a canopy of state embroidered with the royal arms, and bearing James's kindly motto, Beati Pacificii. Seats were reserved at it for the Duke of Buckingham and Richmond, the Earls of Pembroke and Nottingham, the Lords Howard of Effingham and Grey of Groby, Sir Gilbert Houghton, and the Bishop of Chester. These constituted the favoured guests. Grace having been said by the bishop, the whole company took their seats, and the general stillness hitherto prevailing throughout the vast hall was broken instantaneously by the clatter of trenchers. A famous feast it was, and worthy of commemoration. Masters Morris and Miller, the 2 cooks who contrived it, as well as the labourers for the ranges, for the pastries, for the boiled meats, for the pullets, performed their respective parts to admiration. The result was all that could be desired. The fare was solid and substantial, consisting of dishes which could be cut and come to again. Among the roast meats were chines of beef, haunches of venison, gigots of mutton, fatted geese, capons, turkeys, and sucking pigs. Amongst the boiled, pullets, lamb, and veal, but baked meats chiefly abounded, and amongst them were to be found red deer pasty, hare pie, gammon of bacon pie, and baked wild boar. With the salads, which were nothing more than what would nowadays be termed vegetables, were mixed all kinds of soused fish, arranged according to the sewer's directions. The salads spread about the table, the fricassees mixed with them, the boiled meats among the fricassees, roast meats among the boiled, baked meats among the roast, and carbonadoes amongst the baked. This was the first course merely. In the second were all kinds of game and wild fowl, roast herons, 3 in a dish, bitterns, cranes, bustards, curlews, dotterels, and peewits. Besides these, there were lumber pies, marrow pies, quince pies, artichoke pies, florentines, and innumerable other good things. Some dishes were specifically reserved for the king's table, as a baked swan, a roast peacock, and the jowl of a sturgeon, soused. These, and a piece of roast beef, formed the principal dishes. The attendants at the royal table comprised such gentlemen as wore Sir Richard Houghton's liveries, and among these, of course, were Nicholas Assheton and Sherborne. On seeing the former, the king immediately inquired about his deliverer, and on hearing he was at the lower tables, desired he might be sent for; and as Richard soon afterwards appeared, having on his return from the chase changed his sombre apparel for gayer attire, James smiled graciously upon him, and more than once, as a mark of special favour, took the wine cup from his hands. The King did ample justice to the good things before him, and especially to the beef, which he found so excellent that the carver had to help him for the second time. Sir Richard Hoghton ventured to express his gratification that his Majesty found the meat good. "Indeed, it is generally admitted," he said, "that our Lancashire beef is well fed and well flavoured." "Weel flavoured!" exclaimed James, as he swallowed the last juicy morsel. "It is delicious. Finer beef nae man ever put teeth into, and I only wish all my loving subjects had as good a dinner as I hae this day eaten. What joint do you call it, Sir Richard?" he asked, with eyes evidently twinkling with a premeditated jest. "This dish," replied the host, somewhat surprised, "this, sire, is a loin of beef." "A loin!" exclaimed James, taking the carving knife from the sewer, who stood by. "By my faith, that is not title honourable enough for joint so worthy. It wants a dignity, and it shall hae it. Henceforth," he added, touching the meat with the flat of the long blade, as if placing the sword on the back of a knight expectant, "henceforth it shall be sirloin, and see ye call it sae. Give me a cup of wine, Master Richard Assheton." All the nobles at the table laughed loudly at the monarch's jest, and as it was soon passed down to those at the lower table, the hall resounded with laughter, in which page and attendant of every degree joined, to the great satisfaction of the good natured originator of the merriment. Note. There is a laughable tradition, said Nichols, still generally current in Lancashire, that our night making monarch knighted at a banquet in Hoghton Tower a loin of beef, the part ever since called the sirloin; and it is added by the same authority, if the king did not give the sirloin its name, he might notwithstanding have indulged in a pun on the already coined word, the etymology of which was, then as now, as little regarded as the thing signified is well approved. Nichols' Progress of James I, Volume 3. "My dear dad and gossip appears in unwonted good spirits to day," observed the Duke of Buckingham. "Ah, wi' good reason, Steenie," replied the King, "for we didna mind when we had better sport, although always excepting the boar hunt, when we should have been rippit up by the cursed creature's tusks. But for this braw laddie," he added, pointing to Richard, "you maun see what can be done for him, Steenie. We maun hae him at court." "Your Majesty's wishes have only to be expressed to be fulfilled," replied Buckingham, somewhat drily. "Were I the lad, I wadna place ower mickle dependence on the Duke's promises," remarked Archie Armstrong, in a low tone, to Nicholas. "Has your Majesty made any further inquiries about the girl suspected of witchcraft?" inquired Buckingham, renewing the conversation. "Ah, whisht, Steenie, whisht!" cried James. "Didna you see her yoursel this morning?" he added, in a low tone. "Ah, I recollect ye werena at the chase. Aweel, I hae conferred with her, and I am sair perplexed in the matter. She is a well favoured lassie as any in the realm, and answers decorously and doucely. Sooth to say, her looks and manners are mightily in her favour." "Then you mean to dismiss the matter without further investigation?" observed Buckingham. "I always thought your Majesty delighted to exercise your sagacity in detecting the illusions practised by Satan and his worshippers." "Ay, sae we do," replied James; "but bend your bonny head this way till we whisper in your ear. We hae a device for finding it all out, which canna fail, and when ye ken it, ye'll applaud your dear dad's wisdom and perfect mastery of the whole science of kingcraft." "I wish your Majesty would make me acquainted with this notable scheme," replied Buckingham, with ill concealed contempt. "I might make it more certain of success." "Na, na, we shanna let the cat out of the bag just yet," returned the King. "We mean it as a surprise to you." "Then, whatever be the result, it is certain to answer the effect intended," observed the Duke. "Gae wi' you. Ye're ever sceptical, Steenie ever misdoubting your ain dear dad and gossip," rejoined James.